Is Senate what, 9?
Yes.
Okay. You ready? Are we up?
Yep.
Ready to go? Alrighty, well, welcome back to the Veterans in Politics. Our candidate interview, we will be interviewing right now Senate District 9, that's the State Senate District 9. We have Mr. Brandon West here, and we have Larry McCullough. So again, we want to welcome you to the Veterans in Politics candidate interviews. What we do, we'll give you a minute to open up, tell the people what you're all about, and then after that we will open it up for discussion with our panelists, and they will ask you a question. You'll have 1 minute to answer. So again, we really appreciate that you're here, and enjoy.
Thank you. Who goes? Should I go first?
Flip a coin.
Mike's right
Just
there.
jump in.
Mike's right there.
Who wants to go?
You want to go first? It's on.
Make sure it's green.
Green. Hold it down.
There you go.
Good to go.
Good to go.
Good to go. Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. My name is Larry McCullough. I am the most qualified and experienced candidate for Senate District 9, bar none. And that addresses both candidates from both sides of the aisle. Briefly, my background, I've lived in the Valley for over 30 years. We're heavily invested as veterans. My father-in-law is a Lieutenant General in the Air Force. He's a former Vice TAC Commander of the Air Force. He's also the former Superintendent of the Air Force Academy, and he's also the Commander at the Tactical Weapons School up here at Nellis Air Force Base. His name, Robert E. Kelly. I'm married to his youngest daughter, Colleen. I am a graduate of San Diego State University and California Western School of Law. I served as a U.S. Marine. I was a sergeant when I got mustered out. I was injured, and I took advantage of the GI Bill, went to law school, and I completed it in 2 years rather than 3. I got a clerkship, a judicial clerkship here in the Valley with the Honorable James A. Brennan, and following the completion of my clerkship, I got hired by the former U.S. Attorney for Nevada. His name is Larry Semenza, and his right-hand man, Lee Lutfi. The firm is known as Semenza and Lutfi. I worked there for 2 years, then I struck out on my own. I established my practice doing major felony criminal defense, contracts, general business, real estate, and family law. 10 years later, the Las Vegas Police Protective Association successfully recruited me to be their first in-house general counsel. With that, I was also the primary legal counsel for the North Las Vegas Police Officers Association, the Clark County School District Police Officers Association, which was just then beginning. So there was interesting work there. And then finally, I was also the statewide legal representative for the Nevada Conference of Police and Sheriffs. I did that job for 4 years by myself. They hired 2 lawyers in my place because I decided to leave. And I took a job with a private trust as their legal counsel. After that, 10 years after that, I wound up the business of that private trust, and I went into business consulting, and now with the purpose of getting my real estate brokerage license, I'm also now a licensed Nevada real estate agent and a certified realtor. I'm married to Colleen Kelly. She's a graduate of Sweetbriar College. She was a major in philosophy and economics. She works for Toll Brothers Inc. here in Nevada as one of only 2 broker salesmen. She's also the head senior sales agent, I think they call it, at the Regency.
So we have to wrap this up because we gave you 1 minute, so now we're going to have to give you a little bit more money. So go ahead and finish up your thoughts. And then
well, we have 3 kids. One just graduated from UNR. She's headed for medical school. All our kids are graduating debt-free because we made a lot of sacrifice along the way. Education is the main reason why I'm here, and it involves veterans. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brandon West. I've been in Nevada for about 10 years. I originally lived in northern Nevada, but I moved to southern Nevada with my mother freshman year. I do not personally have any military services, but my mother served in the United States Army when I was younger, and I have grandfather or great-grandfather who served in the Army. My uncle served in the Air Force. Right now, I'm attending school. I don't have such a large background like my opponent here. I lived all over the United States. I've been to Fort Carson. I lived in Louisiana. Really, been a student my entire life. I don't really, when it comes down to experience, besides my student government history, forensically, this is the highest I've ever tried to aim for. I've been part of my community for a while. I've been debating whether or not if I really wanted to get into politics. Because of what's been going on in the last election, I really felt as though I needed to contribute something more than just a vote. For employment-wise, I worked for the Department of Homeland Security, then the Transportation Security Administration for 3 years. I currently work for the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, RTC. The reason why I came today is because I care about the veterans. My mother and my uncle are veterans. I think there are a lot of things that still need to be done to help protect our veterans and ensure that they have access to all the resources and the help they need. And I would like to thank you guys for letting me come here and be able to give you guys or answer any questions.
Okay, so we'll open up to the panelists. They'll ask you a question. Again, you'll have a minute. I will let you know when the minute's up, and then you'll wrap up your thoughts. Again, we want to thank you for being here. So our panelists, Mr. Foust, I guess you'll go first.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My name is Robert Foust. I'm a former U.S. combat veteran. I would like to ask you, what's the most troubling or pressing point in your Senate district, and what do you plan to do about it?
Go ahead, Mr. Brad.
I live in the Senate District 9. My district's a better off, well-off district compared to everyone else. From what I've noticed, at least in my area, we have an increase of homeless that are starting to arise. We have a lot of homes, but we're trying to build more homes. I think we have a problem with squatters, yes. And I want to tackle that. Also trying to move more towards a renewable energy when it comes out to my area. I think the main
1 minute.
main problem that we're having is in regards to affordable housing, and I want to try to tackle that.
Thank you. May I call you Bob?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. It's a good question, and when you consider District 9, I sit on the Board of Directors for Southern Highlands Community Association. We consist of 7,200 plus homes as of this date, and we still have another 25% growth left before we're topped out. When you get out into the area itself, you're going to find out that infrastructure services is the biggest problem. We have roadways that need to be expanded and improved upon. We need to get more, we need to get more stores and services put in place. Folks out at Mountain's Edge, they don't have much. Where I live in Southern Highlands, I have to drive about 2 miles to the nearest grocery store. So clearly, I would say infrastructure is the most pressing problem in answer to your question.
Go ahead.
You just keep it, we'll just
We'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
That makes
keep it
sense.
simple.
What is something that you agree with, Destiny Beavers, what is something that you agree with that's currently being done in your district that you'll continue?
It's a good question, Destiny, and it's very easy for me to answer. Southern Highlands is unique in that we have private parks with public access. They're completely funded and maintained out of our multi-million-dollar budget through private funds. We've been negotiating with the county to get a major park installed in our area. Originally, the master plan called for a 30-acre park. It's been reduced to 10 acres. And we've been negotiating with the county to get them to pick up the ball and run with it. So far, we're making good progress. It's taken a long time to get there.
Answers.
Question.
Okay. I want to revert back to his response and to your question. What I believe that I will continue with is in regards to the shopping centers. I understand that Southern Highlands doesn't have a lot of grocery stores over there, but they are building it. They are building more stores every year, and that's good. But majority of like towards Flamingo and Fort Apache, there's already plenty of stores. But there's also been plenty of development, like homes are being built, more stores, even the constructions, roads are getting expanded. I will continue working along with the county on developments such as that.
No,
Are you on?
Yeah,
You're
Mike?
next, so you're next.
Lena Ocasio, Airforce veteran. Have a question regarding our CCSD public school education. Do you support ESAs, the educational savings accounts? I understand it was stricken down due to a funding issue, and I know that the majority of the Republicans in the Senate and Assembly voted for it, but the Democrats were against it. So are you opposed or in favor of the ESAs, and why or why not?
In regards to this Clark County School District, the ESAs, I believe you mentioned. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not familiar with ESA, but Clark County.
Want me to just tell you really quick? Okay.
Yes, please.
So ESAs basically allows funding, some of the state funds. If you decide to homeschool your child or to send them to a private school, the funds that would be used for them to go to a public school can be used at your option to private school funding or to homeschool funding.
Educational safety.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay, well, since you gave me a little bit more about it, I believe I would prefer if the money stayed within the public schools. I don't think the taxpayers should have to pay if you choose to keep your child out of public school. If you choose to venture in that area, I think you should fund it, but the money that we collect from the taxpayers, I think, should go to the public schools. I'm not exactly sure how much they're gonna take out and give to the,
I think it was estimated $7,500 per student because that's the dollar amount that the school would be getting, the public school would be getting for your child if you were to keep them in public schools.
I will have to look more into it, but official answer, no, I prefer if the money stayed within the school.
It's a good question, but let's get down to the root of it, the real truthful question. You're talking about white flight from public schools. You're talking about subsidizing what is a de facto racist policy and promoting semi-private public schools. I'm dead set against these charter schools, and I'm dead set against Republican welfare to subsidize them. Public schools are intended for all peoples of all walks of life. When you bail out on your public school system, you're saying, I'm done, I want to be alone, I want it my way, and that's it. But you want the public to subsidize it. That doesn't cut it with me. It's public money, it goes to public purpose. I grew up, I attended parochial school at one point. I did some studying about the parochial school system. It was created because Irish Americans could not go to public schools. They weren't allowed. They got together and they developed, built, and paid for their own school system. and it turned out to be the best school system for everything from K to 12 in this country. It's time we recognize the truth of what we're talking about here. This is nothing more than a institutional racism in my judgment. It's not right. Somebody needs to stand up and call it for what it is, and I'm that guy. I play nice, but I also play hard. And that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Brandon, I'm just curious, how old are you?
23.
Oh, very cool. I'm almost 30, so very cool. Okay, so my question is in regards to your both party affiliation. Now, you guys are both running as Democrats, correct?
As far as we know, yeah.
So your party's nominee, or your party's leading nominee for governor, basically stated he wants to take away my AR-15, wants to take my property by force if I do not surrender it voluntarily. If you're elected in the state legislature, would you support your party's governor if he were elected to take my property away?
Absolutely not. I stand behind the Second Amendment for what it is, but let's be clear and let's be candid. I don't think we need a rate of fire that unloads ammunition at a rate of fire of like 30 rounds a minute. That's crazy. Even hunters would acknowledge that maybe 3 rounds in your clip is sufficient to get the job done. The Second Amendment is unmolested if you regulate the rate of fire in a weapon and you regulate the capacity, the load capacity of a weapon. This conversation about gun regulations talked in the wrong direction. We need to look at gun manufacturers, not citizens, on regulating weapons. We need to regulate the gun manufacturers to get them to stop producing or marketing semi-automatic weapons with rates of fire that are intended at a military level. That's my response.
Just for clarification, clarify?
Go ahead.
Just so I understand what you're saying. So for example, my bump stock or my drum mag, you would make those illegal, but not my AR-15, correct?
Your bump stock is not a weapon covered by the Second Amendment. It would be banned in my book, and it is banned right now.
So you'd support the government by force taking my property away? Just so I
No,
understand.
but I'll see that you're arrested and you get a fair trial, and if you're convicted, I'll see you get punished, because you'd be breaking the law, wouldn't you?
Got it, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, that's it.
Go ahead.
My apologies. I turned around.
I've been hearing about the gun debate for a long time, and I've been learning the difference between automatic semi-weapons and this semi. When it comes down to if the governor would like to take your weapons away, makes a law. Just to give you my opinion on the matter. People say that guns kill people, people don't kill people. I mean, people kill people, guns don't kill people. Assault rifles, automatics, I don't really see a reason to have them. I don't think that it's necessary unless you're serving in the military. But also, I'm not gonna go ahead and just take them away from you. I would like to see more background checks and psych evaluations done for those who are purchasing the weapon.
1 minute.
I'd like to see more regulations in regards to the weapon. If the governor, for example, if the governor wants to ban them from the state, I think it should be left up to the people, a ballot initiative. And if the people decide to get rid of the gun, if they want to ban it in the state, then I'm all for it. But I wouldn't support just taking it away without consulting with the people, because it does a lot of harm, but it also depends on who's using it.
Thank you.
George Chehade, thank you gentlemen for being with us today. We really appreciate it. I just want to ask you your thoughts on the 10 Commandments. Do you feel like the 10 Commandments should be placed in our schools somewhere? And then also I want to hear your thoughts on the separation of church and religion, church and state.
In regards to the 10 Commandments, I personally don't believe as though it should be put into schools, because we come from a background of many religions. I'm not going to force my religion upon them unless we want everybody's religion in the school. like whatever they believe in. I disagree with putting the 10 Commandments in the school. You can practice with any faith you like, but I don't think that the school is the proper place for it. When it comes down to separation of church and government, I do believe that it should be separated. Your religious view shouldn't affect how you govern, and you shouldn't use your position to lobby your view against others.
Thank you. My response, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. If you put that in modern terms, you keep your religion in your church or where you worship. You don't bring it to school, because it's a convergence of different cultures and people, and you can't have tolerance when you start injecting what our founding fathers carefully laid out a plan to avoid. They looked at history, they saw the conflict of religion, and they said, we're going to do it different, we're going to do it better. And guess what? They did it different, and they've done it better. The separation of church and state is right there on the tail end of First Amendment's free speech. If people were fair about it, they would respect each other, and they would go to their choice of house to worship in. When it comes to school, it's not about religion, it's about education. I can go on and on about it, and I don't think I need to. I think I make the point when I say, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. That's what Jesus said, and that's pretty much what we're saying here today and what the founding fathers said. Government is for government and churches are for church. The two just don't mix. It's like oil and water. Any follow-up?
Yeah. So when you go to Washington D.C., you see the term God listed in a lot of places. I've seen that, and also you talk about education. Our founding fathers all were believers in God, without getting too specific on whether it's Jesus or whatever it is. But they all pretty much believed in God, and they used God in their speeches and their writings. Matter of fact, the early part of our nation, you could not become a lawyer unless you had a degree in theology at one time. So you say it's part of education. How can it not be part of education? How can God not be part of education and history in America?
We need to not have a debate. Remember, it's about the issues.
Questions and
Whatever the
answers.
question and answer. All right.
Well, I asked
appreciate that.
how can God be not part of the history?
That's a
It's not a
debate.
debate.
That's a debate. So
It's
we
a
need to
debate?
keep it clean.
It's not a
Yeah.
debate.
That's okay. But
You
I
want
really
to try
appreciate
the
it.
question, or?
I don't think you have to answer that, but we'll just, if you want to go, we'll take the other.
Well, I'm not going to take up your time on a long historical tradition. I can simply comment, the men who established this country were moral men. You have to understand religion in the context in which it applied and why God is on our currency today. It's because we had moral men leading this country, but not proselytizing this country. That's the difference between then and now. We don't need proselytizing in our public schools. We need teachers. We need well-paid teachers. We need administrators who are not incompetent, and we need to reveal the waste and get on with it. But in fairness to your question, it's a fair question, but we have to understand it in a context where we don't engage in political discourse, because that's what you do right now in this seat running for office. When I raise that right hand and take the oath of office, it's called civil discourse. I no longer represent a political interest, I represent the interest of the people. And that's how my play is going to be in Carson City, and that's why I am the shake-up candidate in the Democratic Party today.
Mr. West, you have a chance to answer that also.
No, when it comes down to the founding fathers and forming the government, I'm happy they did it. I forgot which one said they were like honorable or moral men. There's no one that's completely innocent. There's certain things that they did that they should. I personally don't believe that they should have been done. Religion. You mentioned you take the oath and you say under God when you give your oath. Across the Capitol, there's religious figures, words. That was a different time. I still believe that it should be separate. That, you know, there's a place and time for it. I don't think it's in government, but that's it.
Okay. Dennis?
Hi, Michael McDonald. Thank you for being here today, and I'd like to ask you, as running for state senate, you have a position to affect the state laws legislatively. I ask, one of the things that's really affecting a lot of citizens of Nevada is the nepotism of the family in the criminal courts. I ask that this is as a means that's stripping good parents from their own children. It's causing a lot of issues, social issues such as anxiety, depression, mental illness, criminal history, drug use, mass shootings are occurring. When you have the breakdown of the family, the father and the mother are not there for the children, or you have a system that's profiting. They're throwing people in jail for not paying child support or taking their licenses away. And in the criminal court, we have 25% of the world's incarceration rate, yet we're the land of the free. So I ask you guys, would you support family legislation for family and criminal law reform, such as equal parenting and to change the bail amounts and a lot of other issues that we need to address? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. When it comes down to criminal justice reform, I'm completely for it. I think there's a huge problem going on in our criminal justice system. I would certainly support any laws that help families stay together or can assist in reduction of like the amount they pay. There's so much involved with it. I want to reform the criminal justice system. I'm not sure what's going to be all the steps I'm going to take, how I'm going to complete it, but I certainly want to take action, and I would like to work with the other senators to achieve this goal, but
1 minute.
I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get it done. But I do agree that we should have some sort of reform.
You go by Mike or Michael?
Mike,
Good Irish name.
my son's name, Mike McDonald.
To speak lawyer to lawyer, but in a way the rest would include everybody else in this room. You want to talk about family courts? I practiced family law for many years. There is an inherent bias. It's a gender bias in the system, and it's against men, basically speaking. I have no problems with the support structure as it's written. It might have to, and it used to be, and I still assume it is, that it's subject to revision, review and revision, as the economy shows, I think every 4 years or something like that.
It's underway right now.
Yeah. So we have mechanisms that we put in place years ago to make us, believe it or not, make us the leading jurisdiction in America when it comes to family law. Child custody, child support, you name it, we are on the cutting edge of that law all the time. Judicial reform of the criminal justice system, yes. Now that marijuana is legalized in this state, I think we need to have a blue ribbon. I think we need to have a blue ribbon committee. Go back and review incarcerated prisoners who were there on drug convictions, not traffickers, just possessors. And I think we need to have the governor give a carte blanche pardon to those that don't have any other major issues concerning their confinement or their criminal history. We were second only to Texas in the severity of punishment for marijuana in this country. And we have probably several hundreds, would be my guess, prisoners who were put in prison on the possession of one marijuana joint. Do we want to continue paying the price for that? I don't think we need to. Now that we have the pot law in place, it kind of makes us look kind of dumb that we're continuing to force something that's becoming more and more archaic by our standards that we've defined here. In terms of the criminal justice system overall, we need prison reform. For the idea of jobbing it
Wrap up
out.
your thoughts, please. You only have a minute.
Prison reform requires us to reform the prisons, not job it out to private contractors.
Okay, so that wraps up our panelists, so we're gonna give you a minute to tell the people why they need to vote for you, and we'll give you a minute, and I will tell you when it's up, all right?
You want me to go first?
Whoever wants to go first.
All right, for my minute and why I'm running and what I'm trying to achieve, I'm in a district that's faced with massive development. We need to, I want to put pressure on the local authorities to cut back, not to cut back, but to hold back and develop higher standards for the developers to follow. My model is my wife's employer, Toll Brothers. They put class communities together. And I think we need to go and look at master plan communities like Inspirata, like we have where I live in Southern Highlands and Mountain's Edge. We can do so much better if we're committed to it. The balancing act is getting housing costs down so they're affordable. That's the trick. I believe, because I'm running in the most educated district in the state of Nevada, that the population in my district is capable of meeting the highest standards that employers can throw at them. So I'm out. My game is to bring in quality businesses that can deliver on quality jobs for my residents and voters in District 9. I'm proposing legislation to bring healthcare to kindergarten through 12. The kind of healthcare I have in mind is very simple. I think we need to get our kids in a position where we can pay for their healthcare, because what are we really talking about? Not social medicine, not Obamacare. What I'm talking about is a small circle of maladies that keep kids out of school. Colds, flus, fever, physicals, eye exams, ear exams, etc. I want that explored, because healthy children mean educated children. Educated children are the resource of our future. They are a labor resource for our future. It's an investment I want to see us make. Other than that, the jobs and so forth. One last thing on education. I discussed it in kind of detail on my website at electlarrysenate9.com. One of the practices in the legislature is offensive to me is the pot bill authorized exclusively the tax proceeds to be dedicated to education. The legislature's been taking from Peter to give to Paul.
You're at 2 minutes right now, so we need to wrap it up.
The legislature's under-budgeted education, relying on that tax money to pick up the slack. It's wrong. We need to go back to the proper funding of education and let that be our surplus to do good by our kids.
Okay. Mr. West, you have 2 minutes, by the way, now. Thank you.
I love my area, the 9th District. I think it's one of the best areas in town, personally. We have a lot of educated people. We have constantly more renovations, new development coming in. But I'm also running not just for my district, but as a member of the state senate. There's many things that I would like to see done. I would like to see police and criminal justice reform. I like to see renewable energy be utilized more throughout the state. I also want to focus on our homeless. I want to help them out. Veterans is always on my mind. I want to see our education level within K through 12 rise. Those are the things I'm going to tackle within my district. There's things to work on there, but I think most of my positions and what I plan on doing will be towards the state itself and not just my district. Closing is the reason why I'm running. It's basically because I want to see some changes throughout the community. There's a lot of things that shouldn't be able to go on. There's things that are unfair, and there's a lot of people struggling. My area, the east side, north side, and all people that aren't able to make ends meet, and I like to be able to help them, increasing the minimum wage, lowering costs for purchasing homes or renting property. Those who were arrested. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes our candidate interviews for Senate District 9. On behalf of the Veterans in Politics, we want to thank you for being here. And we can't let go of our sponsors because it makes this possible so we can do these interviews. So I want to thank Ron Q for Clark County Treasurer, Michael Broadway with real estate and with real water, and of course Lakeside Business Suite. So on behalf of all of us, we want to thank the candidates for being here. So if you guys would like to give them a round of applause.